Tonight, too soon or not enough?
I think most of the people feel it's going to be November, December.
Concerns about a rushed coronavirus vaccine by Election Day.
We've always said that we are hopeful for a vaccine by the end of this year.
As health officials urge caution with Americans heading into the Labor Day weekend.
And more protests. A car smashing through protesters in Times Square after another black man dies in police custody. What happened to Daniel Prude?
Plus, a milestone.
But ultimately, it will be good for the world.
Is the recent Middle East peace deal just the beginning? All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Could Labor Day travel and get-togethers lead to a COVID surge? Good evening and welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Thanks for joining us. Well, millions of Americans are expected to travel this holiday weekend.
And that's why one of the top docs on the White House Coronavirus Task Force is urging Americans to exercise caution. CBN News reporter Mark Martin joins us now. Mark, the goal here is to avoid another coronavirus resurgence.
That's right, John and Jenna. Currently, the CDC reports there are more than 6 million COVID-19 cases in the U.S. and more than 185,000 deaths. The director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, doesn't want to see an increase in cases because of large gatherings this holiday weekend. Meanwhile, the talk continues over when a vaccine might be ready.
The CDC sent a letter to all 50 states, urging them to be prepared for a vaccine by November 1st, much earlier than experts believe one will be ready. The chief scientific advisor for President Trump's Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Moncef Slaoui, told NPR that a vaccine before Election Day is possible but extremely unlikely. But he is strongly optimistic, though, about one being ready in 2020.
We may have enough vaccine by the end of the year to immunize probably, I would say, between 20 and 25 million people. And then we will ramp up the manufacturing to immunize the U.S. population by the middle of 2021.
U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams also spoke out about vaccines.
We've always said that we are hopeful for a vaccine by the end of this year or beginning of next year. Tony Fauci has affirmed that several times in the last 48 hours. But that said, it's not just about having a vaccine that is safe and effective. It's about being ready to distribute it.
ABC News reports the CDC is predicting up to 211,000 American deaths by the end of September. All this while colleges continue to struggle with COVID-19. According to ABC News, Indiana University's Bloomington campus wants fraternities and sororities to reconsider their choice to stay in housing off campus. That's after more than 400 people tested positive for COVID in 37 of the school's 42 Greek houses in the last 2 weeks. But officials say if you send students home, that could compound the problem.
Fraternities should stay focused on safety and quarantining right now and following Dr. Fauci's advice, which is if you don't have symptoms, you're asymptomatic and you have it, stay in quarantine. The worst possible solution is to leave your quarantine and create more community spread. That's why the fraternities are going to stay in their facilities.
Back to the Labor Day holiday, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams also addressed that. He said going into this weekend, we've had a decrease of about 40% in cases since a peak on July 24th, and he doesn't want Americans to get careless this weekend. John, back to you.
All right, CBN's Mark Martin. Thanks, Mark. Well, top White House advisor Larry Kudlow says the American economy is not out of the woods yet. That forecast coincides with new government numbers out today showing an improvement in the jobs picture. The unemployment rate fell to 8.4%, far better than expectations, and below 10%, which is a key measurement level. Today's numbers also show the economy added 1.4 million jobs in August, down from July as the pace of new hiring slowed down. There's just one more unemployment report that'll be released before the November election.
And here now for more, author, economist, and independent advisor to President Trump, Stephen Moore. Steve, it's good to see you this Friday. Thank you for joining us. So encouraging news on the jobs front. You heard Larry Kudlow. We're not out of the woods quite yet. What do you make of these numbers, though, Steve?
Very good numbers. Very little to complain about in this report. 1.4 million jobs is the fourth largest number of monthly job gains in the history of the United States. The third largest job gains was in July. The second largest job gains in American history was in June, and the first largest was in May. So we've had 4 straight months of record job creation. We're just over 10 million now jobs that have come back. John, that's a very strong number. Now, Larry's also right. We lost 20 million, so we're halfway there. Still a long way to go, but the increases in employment were pretty much across the board, and some nice wage gains for Americans. So and by the way, the labor force participation rate also picked up, so more workers are getting back into the labor market.
Steve, to New York, where city restaurants are suing the state to reopen for indoor dining. That's a $2 billion class action lawsuit. Are restaurants going to be able to rebound if they can't reopen? And what if there's another, heaven forbid, COVID surge in the fall?
Well, obviously, that's the nightmare scenario, is if we get that surge in the fall, and let's all hope and pray that doesn't happen. Look, going inside for restaurants is something I personally don't do. I've been eating a lot outdoors because I just think it's safer to be outside. But I think at this point, it should be the decision of individual people about what decisions they want to make about whether they want to go into a restaurant. Obviously, even within restaurants, you have to social distance. So, here's the other side of the equation. If there's not some kind of way that these restaurants can operate, they're going to go under. They're going to fail, and you're going to have, potentially hundreds of thousands of, small businessmen and women who are running restaurants that have to, board up their restaurant, and it will never come back. So we want to save those mom and pop restaurants, and one way to do that is to allow indoor dining.
Well, Steve, some economists think we're about to see a slew of corporate bankruptcies and small business shutdowns if the federal government doesn't intervene. Your thoughts, Steve, on the possibility of another stimulus bill?
Well, this is what's being debated right now, Jan, and it's really a really interesting situation because Trump has offered about a little over $1 trillion, and that includes things like direct payments to individuals, those $1,000 checks, which are popular with people. He also wants to do the payroll tax cut. Frankly, what Pelosi cares most about is giving aid to mayors and governors in these blue states and cities, and that's really been the hang-up right now. But look, I'm of the opinion, when I look at these jobs reports, I'm not so sure a massive another government spending bill is what's needed here. I mean, the government, you saw those numbers that came out yesterday where our record debt, that debt is now larger than the GDP. Do we really want to spend another $2 or $3 trillion right now and further indebt our country and put that burden on our children? So I'm in the camp that thinks maybe we don't need this massive spending.
All right, Stephen Moore, thank you very much. Well, in Portland, the man thought to have killed a supporter of a right-wing group last week is dead. Michael Forrest Rainhole was shot as a federal task force tried to arrest him in Washington state. One official said Rainhole pulled a gun. Rainhole also appeared to admit he was responsible for the deadly shooting of Aaron J. Danielson at a protest in Portland during an interview with Vice News. Rainhole was a sympathizer of the radical group Antifa, which has been involved in these violent protests.
Well, tonight, Jenna, unrest in Rochester, New York, after another claim of police brutality against a black man.
Yeah, video of the incident now surfacing more than 5 months later. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips has more.
Community members are demanding to know why it took so long for all of this to come to the surface. It started with a call to police because of a man in mental distress and ended with that man's death.
March 23rd, 2020, 41-year-old Daniel Prude had taken off all of his clothing and was running naked through the streets of Rochester, New York. His brother called for help.
Me calling out to get him some help didn't want for them to come and kill him. That wasn't what my call was about. My call was strictly for help.
Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. Yes, don't move.
When officers arrived, the exchange started off calm, but then escalated. Officers put a so-called spit hood over Pruden's head, then held him face pressed against the ground for 2 minutes until he stopped breathing.
Oh, he's puking. Just straight water. You see all that water came out of his mouth?
Prude died 7 days later after doctors took him off life support. The death ruled a homicide.
My father posed no threat to anybody. He was told to get on the ground. He got on the ground. He was told to put his hands behind his back. He put his hands behind his back. He complied with all orders. My father should not be dead right now. This is strictly based on race, strictly based on the fact that they saw a Black person and decided, well, hey, he doesn't deserve to live.
Mr. Pruitt needed therapeutic intervention. Instead, what he got was execution.
Amid community outcry on the streets of Rochester, and demonstrations like this one in Times Square where a car drove through protesters, Rochester's mayor announced she was suspending the 7 officers involved.
Mr. Daniel Prude was failed by our police department, our mental health care system, our society, and he was failed by me.
The mayor claims she was not made aware of the officers' actions until just last month. The head of the police union disputes that and insists the officers' actions were by the book.
To me, it looks like they were watching the training in front of them and doing it step by what that training says to do.
Police officials say the hood was used to protect officers in these COVID times from Prude's spit. The incident went public after an attorney for the family obtained body cam video of the arrest through a Freedom of Information Act request. An investigation is ongoing through New York's AG's office. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
All right, thanks, Eric. Coming up, 1 week after the party conventions, and the race between President Trump and Democratic rival Joe Biden intensifies. We examine the latest with our Faith Nation political panel next.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Welcome back. Tonight, the president and Democratic challenger Joe Biden are sparring over a new report claiming the nation's commander-in-chief dishonored the memory of dead American soldiers. According to The Atlantic, President Trump said World War I Marines who died for their country in the Battle of Belleau Wood were, quote, losers and suckers for getting killed. The article states the president canceled a planned trip to the American cemetery outside Paris in 2018 because he didn't think it was important to honor America's war dead, according to 4 people who spoke to The Atlantic. The president forcefully denied the report, calling the magazine, quote, fake news.
It was a fake story written by a magazine that was probably not going to be around much longer, but it was a totally fake story, and that was confirmed by many people who were actually there. It was a terrible thing that somebody could say the kind of things.
And Joe Biden, speaking in Delaware, called the president's alleged comments, quote, disgusting, and pointed to his own son, Beau, an Army judge who served in Kosovo and Iraq before his death in 2015 from cancer.
He wasn't a sucker. The servicemen and women he served with, particularly those who did not come home, were not losers. If these statements are true, the president should humbly apologize to every Gold Star mother and father and every Blue Star family that he's denigrated and insulted. Who the heck does he think he is?
And here with us now for our Faith Nation political panel, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Clarence Page of the Chicago Tribune and Julia Manchester, political reporter with The Hill. Clarence, Julia, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. We just heard that hot, heated sound from both President Trump and Joe Biden. Trump was emphatic denying that Atlantic story, more so than usual. And now you have others like Secretary Mike Pompeo and John Bolton who wrote about this apparent event, offering a different scenario. To both of you, and starting with you, Julia, first, how do you read the story?
You know, I think this story is giving a lot of ammunition to critics in particular right now because President Trump has made disparaging comments about members of the military, about veterans in the past. You know, going back to 2015, after he announced his run for president, he appeared to make light of John McCain, the former late senator and former Vietnam prisoner of war, his capture during the Vietnam War, saying he doesn't like it when people get captured. He wouldn't get captured. And then we saw that John McCain and the president really went back and forth throughout the rest of John McCain's life. And after John McCain died 2 years ago, it took President Trump 2 days to lower the half-mast over the White House. We've seen President Trump also go after the Kaiser Khan, who was a Gold Star father. His son lost his life serving the country in Iraq, I believe, in 2004. And we've seen them go back and forth. So I think a lot of critics are saying, look, this language is not necessarily anything new for the president. However, the president's defenders, those in the administration, say, look, this is a president that constantly reaches out to the military and military families. This is out of character, and this is an attempt to smear him ahead of an election.
Clarence? And Clarence, military, this is Trump's base.
Yes, it has been his base, and I would say it still is, but from recent polling shows that he's lost a lot of support among military people, more than we would normally expect, and that he's very sensitive to that. He's very sensitive to any idea that he is not patriotic. I mean, you saw all the flags around during his convention speech at the White House. He loves to hug the flag when he comes onto the stage for various rallies and engagements, and he also chafes under the notion that he dodges the draft, although, you know, his bone spurs were the reason why he got out, and that has been a subject of ridicule from his political rivals. I think this particular episode, it's unusual for this to get that much attention, except that The Atlantic is a prestigious publication. I doubt that it's soon going out of business any more than the failing New York Times, as President Trump calls it. But at the same time, his base doesn't necessarily read The Atlantic very much. Right. But we're looking at the battle for swing voters, and that concerns the president a lot.
Well, Politico was out with a story about the campaigns. It reports Trump is taking the debate prep this time around much more seriously than he did in 2016. Clarence, do you think these debates will move the dial with voters?
I don't know if they will move the dial that much. I've been disappointed by debates since, I'd say, maybe Ronald Reagan's debate, where he scored a couple of nice punchlines against Walter Mondale back in '84. However, this is a tightening race right now, and a lot of people, a lot of Trump supporters have put out the word that Joe Biden is over the hill. He can't stand up and talk for very long, loses his place, et cetera, et cetera. And so every time Biden comes out in public and presents himself as a strong speaker and a strong debater, that helps him immensely. I think President Trump only has to hold his own right now.
Clarence, we're going to have to leave it right there. Julia, Clarence, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great weekend, and we'll be right back after the break.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone. I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Well, tonight, a new milestone for President Trump. He was at the center of talks today as Israel and Muslim-majority Kosovo agreed to normalize ties and establish diplomatic relations.
And Jenna, more countries in the Middle East could also soon establish ties with a Jewish state. Here's CBN's Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell.
Whether it's the mutual threat of Iran, COVID-19, or other interests that inspired the Israel-UAE peace deal, investors believe it's just the beginning.
It's the third peace treaty signed between Israel and one of its Arab neighbors. The first one in '79 with Egypt was transformational. Took 15 years to get the second deal done with Jordan in 1994. And now 26 years later, we're doing number 3. But what I can bet you is that it's not going to take 26 years for number 4, 5, and 6.
Venture capitalist Jonathan Medved says Israel is taking its place as a valued member of the region.
We are going to work with perhaps the most progressive and interesting and developed Arab country in the United Arab Emirates on a broad range of interaction, including defense, intelligence, business, startups, tourism, civil aviation.
Medved, founder of the crowdfunding platform Our Crowd, knows what he's talking about as he took part at an economic conference last year in Abu Dhabi, capital of the UAE.
They were completely fine with me being open as an Israeli venture capitalist. I said, you want me to speak about Israel? And they said, absolutely. Why do you think we invited you here? We want you to talk about Israel.
Medved saw signs then that the two countries were moving closer.
What's rare is to find another country that has the same kind of breadth of interest that Israel represents in terms of its startup nation technology prowess.
Medved says while the Israel-UAE deal is a win-win for the two countries, it has the potential to succeed on a higher level.
But ultimately it will be good for the world because this is a major step forward in terms of putting to bed this 72-year-old conflict, which has taken so much attention and cost so much money and lives and sorrow. And we're moving into a new phase where people are saying, you know what, this is not about one side winning or one side losing. This is about accepting reality. And the reality is that Israel is here to stay.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Finally tonight, making music in a pandemic. The popular Christian group Hillsong United isn't letting COVID-19 stand in their way.
That's right. Hillsong Young and Free recently released their newest 20-track album called All of My Best Friends. The group hopes the album leads young people to pray when they don't know what to do in these unprecedented times. Singer and songwriter Melody Wagner says she hopes the album helps young people pray during these unprecedented times.
Awesome group, great music.
For sure. Well, thank you for watching Faith Nation.